All right. Good evening, and welcome to the BFTAA and More show. Wait a minute, let me get some lights on here. Got myself a little bit dark. Just a second. There we go. All right. That's a little bit better light on the subject here. Don't disregard that man behind the curtain there. So, yeah. All right. Well, we're glad that you're here. And wait a minute, this is the BFTAA and More show. I'm your host, Louis George Walker, and I'm here with you every Monday from 5 to 5:45 or thereabouts, somewhere in there. But this is the Black Family Technology Awareness Association and the W.E.B. Du Bois Learning Centers project, which is Knowledge, Understanding, and a Wisdom Radio, KUAW. And we come here every Monday to bring you events that are going on in the city, in the nation, and what's happening with technology, what's happening with the research and development, those type of things, and some community news too. So I'm glad that you're here with me. I've been running today pretty busy. Didn't get to do a whole lot of advanced preparation, but I've got a couple of things that I do want to run by you before I let you go. And so I don't want to hold you up with just talking about nothing. But we want to do some of the things that we normally do here, and what we do is try to get you involved in technology, STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. That's what it's about. And we've got some young people that have been working with us this weekend learning how to fly drones, and I was really excited for what they're doing. So we've got I don't have the videos up now. I'll have them up on our webpage a little bit later on, probably tomorrow. But the kids just took it off the ground, practiced takeoff and landings. But it's just good to see young people when they're learning and getting excited about something. And some of them were a little nervous about it, but it was really a great time with it. But STEM is what we want to get our families and our young people involved in: science, technology, engineering, mathematics. It may not be for everybody, but for those that are, and if your child is so inclined, you want to make them aware of it. You want to get them to at least learn a little bit about the different programs or different parts of science, of engineering, of mathematics, things that they may have some interest in. So you need to take them around organizations, take them around people, take them to museums, science fairs, things that can help them get involved or see a need that they want to feel, that they want to be a part of. So we're going to do one of the things that we always do every week here. And you see I'm still celebrating the Chiefs win. Chiefs won the Super Bowl, for those of you that may have been under a rock for the last 2 or 3 weeks and didn't know about it. But the Kansas City Chiefs are once again the world champions. But we will go on into what we have for today. And one of the things that we always do is tell you what's going on with the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, NASA. We pick up their feed and give you the information from what's happening this week at NASA, and we have it today. So let's sit back and relax and see what's going on this week at NASA. See if I can bring that up for you. Just a second. I think I got it here. Oh, I see what it is. Just a second. Now we're going to see what's going on at NASA.
The next crew headed to the space station, black holes on a collision course, and an anniversary on Mars. A few of the stories to tell you about this week at NASA. On February 21st, the members of NASA's SpaceX Crew-6 mission arrived at our Kennedy Space Center ahead of their flight to the International Space Station. The crew, including NASA astronauts Stephen Bowen and Woody Hoberg, are targeted for launch no earlier than February 27th from Kennedy's Launch Complex 39A. Astronomers have used our Chandra X-ray Observatory to track two pairs of supermassive black holes in dwarf galaxies on collision courses. This is the first evidence for such an impending encounter, and it is providing important information about the growth of black holes in the early universe. NASA's Perseverance rover recently celebrated its second anniversary on Mars. Since landing in February 2021, the rover has traveled over 9 miles, collected 18 samples, and taken hundreds of thousands of images, all as part of the mission's search for signs of ancient microbial life on Mars. As part of our effort to provide more resources and information to new audiences, we have launched new Spanish-language web pages featuring NASA aeronautics content and information. You can also find STEM-related educational content on these web pages for students. Find out more at nasa.gov/aeroes. That's nasa.gov/aeroes. That's what's up this week at NASA. For more on these and other stories, follow us on the web at nasa.gov/twan. The next crew headed to the space station, black holes on a collision course, and an anniversary on Mars. A few of the stories to...
There you go with what's happening at NASA this week. And one thing you definitely need to check out is the NASA website. That website that they have has a lot of things. So go to www.nasa.gov. And you can find things that you can work on with your kids. That's for young people. There are so many good sites. And you may find some things that you want to look at and learn, because they have a whole lot of research and development stuff, but they have experiments that kids can do. They have news that you can watch. So be sure and check out the NASA webpage at nasa.gov. Now, while we're on the subject of NASA, let's go to the next bit that we have from them, which is the space to ground. So this is based on what's going on up in the space station and some of the other stuff that's happening at NASA. So let's check out this week's Space to Ground.
Welcome to Space to Ground. I'm Jaden Jennings. The first ship commanded by 18th century British explorer James Cook carried the name. Over a 19-year period, a space shuttle with the same name flew to space 25 times. And soon, another spacecraft bearing that name will take humans to space for the 4th time. The SpaceX Crew-6 astronauts have officially arrived at Kennedy Space Center, where they will hitch a ride to the space station on Crew Dragon Endeavour. The Crew-6 mission is scheduled to launch from Kennedy early next week and will carry NASA astronauts Steve Bowen and Woody Hoberg, mission commander and pilot respectively, along with United Arab Emirates astronaut Sultan Al Nayati and Roscosmos cosmonaut Andrei Vedyaev.
It's awesome to fly in space. It's awesome to be a part of the research and the science, but we're also the subjects as well. There's diet studies, there's blood studies, there's just an amazing number of genetic studies.
If we go outside EVA, we may actually do some sampling on the outside of the space station and start trying to characterize any biologic samples that exist outside the space station that is relevant to our planetary protection mission that at NASA we take very seriously as we think forward to exploration.
One very interesting experiment that I'm looking really to see is seeing the heart tissue beating in space. This is a cutting-edge technology that one day when we start 3D printing organs, this is really important to see how the structure is built in microgravity.
We study how the space environment affects human beings, how it affects different materials in space, and also we do Earth studies and studies of the space itself.
You can hear more from the Crew-6 astronauts directly ahead of their mission on this week's edition of Houston, We Have a Podcast. You can listen to the episode on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or SoundCloud, or find it on the NASA Johnson Space Center social media channels on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. Science is continuing at a quick pace ahead of Crew 6's arrival to the space station. This week, astronauts brought seeds that were exposed to the harsh environment of space back into the space station for further studies. The feasibility study on seed irradiation in space for induced genetic diversity and plant mutation breeding investigation exposes seeds of 2 plant species to microgravity and cosmic radiation inside and outside of the space station for 3 to 7 months. After return to Earth, the seeds are grown and the biology and genome of the plants evaluated. What we learn may advance breeding to develop crop varieties able to withstand increasingly harsh growing environments on Earth created by climate change. And that's Space to Ground for this week. Thanks for watching. You can stay up to date on all things happening on station by following us on Twitter at @space_station. We'll see you next week.
All right. That's Space to Ground, and that's some interesting information you got there. Now, one of the things that intrigued me on that video is they talk about 3D printing organs. So think about that they're looking at doing that in the future, is to be able to replicate or to 3D print a body part. You know, they showed it looked like a heart or something. So rather than taking a heart from a donor, which you maybe never know when you're going to be able to get it, or from an animal of some sort that's close to man or something, they're talking about 3D printing an organ. Now that's fantastic. I know that's probably a long ways off, and then it may be quicker than even I'm thinking about, but that's what we want our young people to get involved in, is things like that. Because you see these 3D printers for sale, and they're making little toys or chess pieces and things like that. But the research, what kids can learn by working with a 3D printer now, will help them as they become adults, as they become researchers, as they become engineers, to come up with ideas and ways that I never would have thought about. We're going to 3D print an organ, an actual body part. It may work, it may never work, but I mean, that's something that people are working on, that they're thinking about, and they're getting paid to do that. So you might want to get involved in that field, or tell your young people about it, your students, if you have students, all you teachers out there that watch this show. And if you're watching this show wherever you are in the United States or around the world, be sure and let me know, what do you think about it? What do you think about what we're doing here at KUAW Radio? You can email us at KUAW985@gmail.com. That's KUAW985@gmail.com. You can also give us a call right here on the show in the studio. We're at 816-599-6893. That's our phone number, 816-599-6893. So give us a call. I'd love to hear the phone ring and see what you're thinking about and what you think about the show. But you can also hit us up on our Facebook page, KUAW, and check us out there, KUAW Radio. We're on 24 hours a day on not on Facebook, but on the internet. We're on the audio side. We have a Google site. If you have a Google smart speaker or an Amazon speaker, you can tell it to play KUAW. You can hear us there. You can also pick us up on Get Me Radio, on My Radio Tuner, on Online Radio Bot, on the TuneIn app. Any of those apps that you have, you can pick us up, or you can pick us up on KUAW.org. There's radio players. You just push the button, and we're there. Also, new that we've been on for not quite a month yet, but we're on STEM City USA, or STEM City Kansas City. So if you go to STEM City Kansas City, you can pick up this radio broadcast, what I'm saying right now. So we're also a part of the STEM City metaverse that is going on in Kansas City and Chicago and other cities around the country. STEM City USA. And Kansas City is one of the first legs of the STEM City metaverse that's being created, part of a Career Communications STEM City USA. So check us out. We're out there. We're broadcasting right now. We're trying to bring technology to you in a lot of different ways, and we can use the technology to get the word out. This is something that wasn't available just a few years ago, but now you can broadcast, you can do live chats, you can do a lot of things through the internet, and we have to start using it to build our communications between the communities in different cities, in different countries, so that we can all be lifted up. So we want to see what we can do to make this STEM, this internet, beneficial to everybody, not just a toy, but somewhere where we can grow, where we can learn, where we can explore and become better. So check us out, stay with us. Tell us what you think about KUAW and what we're putting out, and we'll be glad to hear from you. Now, as I was telling you, we have 3 programs here. We've got the VEX robotics program, the Lego robotics program, and now we have the Leahawk drone program that's all a part of the Black Family Technology Awareness Association. We operate those programs out of the W.E.B. Du Bois Learning Center. We are the technology provider for the W.E.B. Du Bois Learning Center. And right now, the robotics program has ended. They did a competition over in North Kansas City, and the kids learned a lot. We've got a lot of improvement to do, but that's all right. We had a brand new group of kids that had never did competitive robots before, and now they're knowing something about it. So we look for bigger and better things from our young people. We also had some new coaches working with the kids. So that's something that we're proud of and that we're glad to be able to do. We also are getting ready for STEM Day, Remake Learning Days, in Kansas City. Remake Learning Days are going to happen in May. And KUAW, the Black Family Technology Awareness Association, are going to be here at the W.E.B. Du Bois Learning Center with a program on drones and robots that we're going to be doing out in the parking lot or on the school field, where you'll get to see some demonstration. Your kids can even try some hands-on drone flying, so that they'll be able to practice that themselves. They'll also see some robotics, some robots that they can work with, that they can control and drive. So we'll have a lot of hands-on activities that we want your young people to get involved in for Remake Learning Days. So stay in touch. It's going to be happening. I believe we set the date for May the 5th. Or 6th. I don't know. They keep telling me. I get so many dates mixed up in my head. But we will have that information on our Facebook site and on our website and on Instagram shortly. But we want you to be able to bring your kids, bring the family down. We're going to be cooking some hot dogs and having some Kool-Aid and all of that type of stuff. So we're going to have a great time. It's going to be 2 or 3 hours of fun for the whole family right here, 4510 East Linwood Boulevard in Kansas City, Missouri, Remake Learning Days. Another fine thing that we're working on developing and starting here in the W.E.B. Du Bois Learning Center building, and Black Family Technology Awareness Association will be hosting this, but we're getting ready to sponsor a NSBE Junior chapter right here. Now, NSBE is the National Society of Black Engineers, and they work at colleges, that kids that are in engineering and stuff, but they have a NSBE Junior program that is for children that are in school-age kids, but haven't made it to college yet. So we're starting with some 9-year-olds, 10-year-olds, but we're going to get them working with the NSBE program, that they can start thinking about engineering, they can start thinking about going to college and those advanced placement classes that they can take. So I want you to stay in touch. Be sure and keep watching us, our webpage. Watch what we're putting on our show and things that we'll be talking about. But NSBE Junior, we're going to start a NSBE Junior chapter. I know it's been a long time that we've been out here and we've been doing other things, but we're going to go ahead and start a NSBE Junior chapter, and we will be glad to have you involved in it. So those are some things that are coming up. And as I say, we want you to get involved in the Remake Learning Days so that you can get your kids involved in some of the programs that we'll be bringing up that will help you and help your kids and family get the training, getting the education, insight, the awareness of things that you'll be able to help you through the future, educationally and in the workforce. So stay in touch and get in touch with us. If you want to find out more about any of these things, if you want to get involved with the Black Family Technology Awareness Association, be sure and give us a ring. You can call us on the phone. Let us know you want to get involved. You can go to our website, BFTAA.org. That's www.bftaa.org. You can sign up to be a volunteer. You can enroll your kids online for our classes that we're having. So we do all of this free of charge or very low cost to most of all the people that come in. And we're just glad to be able, we've got a group of volunteers that are diligently working to bring new ideas and new activities for young people and for family. We had a computer class for seniors, so all the senior citizens could come in and learn that. We're going to do that again either this spring or early summer. We'll do a basic computer class so that you'll be able to come in and learn. I know some of you may have uncles, aunties, grandfathers, grandmothers that aren't technically literate and don't know how to work their computers and would like to learn. Or you may be that person that, just kind of hadn't been that interested in it, but now everybody's got iPhones, they've got computers, they're on Zoom, they're on this, and you're saying, like, I need to get in on that. Well, that's something that we can help you with. We'll be having another class for seniors to come in and learn about basic computing, learn about turning it on, learn about email, learn about getting online, learn about using your cell phone and the activities and the things that you can do on it. So those are some of the classes that'll be coming up, too, that we're planning on. We've got a lot of things, and we're just glad that you're involved with us. Now, another thing I want to bring to you, because this is our last show of Black History Month, so I want to bring you a little bit of Black history that you may not have heard in Black History Month. So this is a program that we have, so I want you to take a listen to it. It's all audio. This isn't video, but listen to it and check out this Black History Month minute.
We're shining a long overdue spotlight on the hidden figures of untaught history who deserve to be celebrated for their contributions to civil rights, politics, the arts, and beyond.
The Tuskegee Airmen were black servicemen of the United States Army Air Forces who trained at Tuskegee Army Airfield in Alabama during World War II. They constituted the first African-American flying unit in the United States military. In January of 1941, the War Department formed the all-black 99th Pursuit Squadron of the United States Army Air Corps. Later, the Army changed its name to United States Army Air Forces. In January of 1941, the War Department formed the all-black 99th Pursuit Squadron of the United States Army Air Corps. Later, the United States Army Air Forces, to be trained using single-engine planes at the segregated Tuskegee Army Airfield in Tuskegee, Alabama. The NAACP, the black press, and others had been lobbying hard for the government to allow African Americans to become military pilots. However, neither the NAACP nor the most involved black newspapers approved the solution of creating separate black units. They believed that approach simply perpetuated segregation and discrimination.
They wanted them to work together.
Nevertheless, largely at the behest of President Franklin D. Roosevelt, a separate unit was created. The Tuskegee base opened on July 19th. And the first class graduated the following March. Lieutenant Colonel Benjamin Oliver Davis, Jr. was the squadron's commander. The Tuskegee Airmen received further training in French Morocco before their first mission on June 2, 1943. Later that year, the Army activated 3 more squadrons that joined in 1944. Altogether, 992 pilots graduated from the Tuskegee Airfield courses, and they flew over 1,500 missions and over 15,000 sorties, destroyed 261 enemy aircraft, and won more than 850 medals.
You're invited to celebrate Black History Month with TNCRadio.live.
Yeah, so that's great information. The Tuskegee Airmen, and a lot of you have seen, they had the movie The Red Tails. They had the tails of their planes painted red. They flew the P-51 Mustang. They were one of the most decorated air groups in World War II. And they actually were so good at protecting the bombers that were flying missions over Germany when a lot were getting shot down. If you saw the picture, the movie about the Memphis Belle, and they were flying, and you weren't expected to fly more than 25 missions. If you made it through 25 missions, they send you back to the United States, and you didn't have to fly anymore in the war. And that was because so many of the bombers were being shot down over Germany. The United States had a program that they were going to do daylight bombing where they could see the bombers. The British had tried it, and they lost so many bombers, they said, we'll only bomb at night. So they have a harder time shooting us down. But the United States said in order to hit the target, we're going to put so many bombers up there in the daytime, they can't shoot them all down. But they did shoot a lot of them down. Well, the Tuskegee Airmen were so good at escorting bombers that they did not lose a bomber to enemy aircraft. So when the aircraft of the Germans would fly in and try and get them, the Mustangs were so good at protecting the bombers that bomber crews started requesting the Tuskegee Airmen to escort them in because they knew they'd have a better chance of making it back because they hadn't lost a bomber. So that's one of the big things or hidden figures, you might say, of World War II. One of the other ones was, and you don't hear as much about them, they haven't made a movie about it and stuff, but it was the 784th Tank Battalion. There was a black tank battalion that had called the Black Panthers. Yeah, think about that. You've heard that name before. But the segregated African-American units served with distinction in Europe and the Pacific during World War II. None received the recognition they deserved, and in recent years, some, such as the 761st Tank Battalion, the Black Panthers, have rightly garnered some attention. Others, though, have remained almost entirely forgotten despite their excellent combat records. One of these was the 784th Tank Battalion, which proved to be one of the finest weapons in America's arsenal in 1945. The 784th came late to the fight, but it hit the enemy hard when it arrived and was activated in April of 1943 as part of the 5th Tank Group alongside the 758 and 761st Tank Battalions. They trained at Camp Claiborne in Louisiana. It was far from a pleasant place to work, and one of the recruits appropriately described the local town of Alexandria as a hellhole. In camp, African-American soldiers were subject to discrimination and ill treatment by white military policemen and bus drivers. In town, though, they were liable to be bullied, beaten up, or murdered by racist civilians. Fort Hood, Texas, where the men trained intensively in the light Stuart and medium Sherman tanks, seemed like paradise compared to their Louisiana thing. But these guys went into battle in England in 1944-45, and they were tough in their battles. While in combat, the 784th Battalion was not involved in the Battle of the Bulge. The cold was severe, and many men fell victim to frostbite. Many called their icy metal tanks, armored Frigidaires, after the popular brand of refrigerator. In February, the 784th was sent forward to Gelsenkirchen along the Germany Siegfried Line, where it was attached to the 35th Infantry Division. The division would later report that the 784th Tank Battalion was an effective, courageous, and dependable unit which earned the respect and admiration of the infantrymen who worked together well with the tankers. So that's one of the things that you don't hear about is all the tank groups that were actually created in World War II that fought alongside the infantrymen. I talked to one veteran, and this was a white guy, but he says, man, he said, when we were over there in Germany, he said, when they came over, we were never so happy to see those tank killers come over. Said they had some of the tanks come and save them from the Germans. And he said they were all black troops. He was surprised, but they came over, they saved their butts. And a lot of people have those stories and memories, but we don't hear about it. As they talk about they want to teach history or restrict the teaching of erroneous history, we have to also think about the history that they leave out. that they don't talk about. You saw the movie Fury, but you didn't see any black tankers in there. You haven't seen any movies that have that in there. You don't see very many books that are wrote about them, but there were plenty of African-American combat divisions in World War II. Although most African-Americans were put in as helpers or in work digging trenches, picking up bodies after battles and things like that, or truck drivers or doing other things other than fighting. There were a lot of combat units that were all black units because the Army wasn't integrated then. So if you were going to be in a fighting unit, they said they had to be all black. They didn't believe black and white soldiers could fight together. One, they didn't believe that the blacks could fight, and they found out that they could, although that was a belief that they just perpetuated themselves because blacks had proven their fighting ability in World War I. You know, there were black troops out of Harlem. The Harlem Hellcats went over and fought in World War I with distinction and got many honors from the French and the Americans for their bravery and for their courage. But all of that seemed to be forgotten by the time World War II came, and they said, well, we don't know if they can fight. Well, that was just a way of trying to keep black people in their place and to not give them the recognition, because if you tell them that they've never done nothing or that they can't do things, then you hope that they will start believing it. And sometimes the majority population believed it more than anybody else. But you found out that, no, the African-American soldier, the African-American whatever, is just as capable as anybody else. So as we go at the end of Black History Month, as we get ready to go into the next month of March and spring is coming, remember that our history is American history. Our history is world history. African-Americans have a history in this country that is oftentimes neglected and not talked about, but we have a history throughout the world that is often neglected or not talked about, not because it didn't happen, but because people make the strategic decision not to talk about it. Yeah, it's not by accident that we get left out. It's not by accident that you didn't hear about the Buffalo Soldiers and them being some of the first forest rangers in this country, or their battles in the Spanish-American War or in the Indian Wars and all that they've done. That's not by accident that it gets left out. You know, if it was an accident, it wouldn't happen over and over and over and over again. So, you know, we have to remember that as we go into Black History Month, as we go into every month, though, because Black history happens 365 days a year. Blacks are outstanding and are doing outstanding things around the world 365 days a year. So remember that as you go to school, as you hear things of saying that it's not valuable knowledge. I heard them down in Florida saying that they didn't want to have that African Advanced Placement, African Studies class because it's about critical race thinking or something. No, it's about truth. It's about talking about everything, not leaving parts out. But that's something that you have to learn, and it's not that it's unknown. So go to your libraries, check out the books, find the books. It's a lot of history that's not being taught, but it's not because it's not out there. There's a lot of history out there, so sometimes you don't have to depend upon other people to tell you about your history. You can go out and find out about it yourself. Yeah, we have black historians and archaeologists that are finding and giving information up, and we have other historians and and architects and archaeologists that are doing work without that bias, that they uncover the truth wherever it may be. That everybody doesn't necessarily try to hide things from you, but it's up to us to make sure that we find those hidden truths that are out there so that you know that it was more than what you're being told. You know, sometimes you hear the talk about the Underground Railroad, that the only place that blacks could go to escape was up north. But that's not the whole story. A lot of African Americans escaped into Florida before Florida became part of the United States. That was the Underground Railroad that they had to go, because it was easier for a black person to get from Georgia to Florida, which is the next state, which was Spanish controlled, than to try and get across 3 or 4 states to get up north. Also, there were a lot of African Americans that escaped through Texas into Mexico, and that was a way that a lot of African Americans were able to get their freedom. So you have to read, you have to study, you have to look for our history to know that there's been a lot that's been done and a lot that will be done by African Americans or African people of African descent worldwide that you may not find in the day-to-day studies or that you may not see on the evening news, but it doesn't mean it's not happening. So that's my story for today. I'm so glad that you joined us. This is the BFTAA and More Show. We're about technology. We're about information. We're about community. Oh, yeah, I forgot to tell you, Kansas City, tomorrow, tonight, the last flight is going to leave out of our old Mid-Continent International Airport, and we have a brand new airport in Kansas City that's going to be opening up for flights tomorrow. So coming in tomorrow, they'll be landing at the new airport in Kansas City. They had the ribbon cutting today. Secretary Pete Buttigieg was in town. Our Emmanuel Cleaver, the governor of Missouri, a lot of people there to talk about the great things that are happening in Kansas City. And this new airport is one of them. My hat's off to all of the people and the office holders and even the construction workers and everybody that worked to make this thing happen. They finished it on time and on budget. And I've been out to that new airport. It's really nice inside, and they've got some great artwork. They've got some beautiful artwork all around. They even have, I say even have, but they have artwork by some black artists in town that is really fantastic. I took some pictures when I was out there because I thought, man, this is some beautiful stuff. So go out to, you can't see that though without a ticket, because the parts of the airport where everything is now, you have to go through the gates. So if you're not flying out, you can't just drop somebody off and see what the best of the airport is. Our old airport, you could kind of walk around without going through security and go to get you a hamburger or this, that, and other. Now, when you drop somebody off or when you go to the airport, security is one of the first things you go through. They've got the ticket counters out there, but other than that, the rest of the airport is behind security. So you won't be able to just walk into the airport and go to a souvenir stand or even see some of this artwork and stuff that is out there. You have to have a ticket. You have to be flying somewhere. You have to be getting ready to leave. Or if you have a job out there, you know. But it is a nice airport. My wife and I went through it. They had jazz playing. They've got a lot of barbecue places out there. A few of them, I'll put it like that. But before, I don't think we could get any barbecue out at the airport. Now, they've got barbecue out there. They've got pulled pork sandwiches. They've got coffee shops. And it's they even have a Johnston & Murphy's shoe and clothing store out there. So it's a lot in the new airport to help make it be more of a world class. Now, it's not the biggest airport I've been in. It's not as big as Dallas or Denver or all of those, but we're moving in the right direction, and it is definitely nice. It's first class. We have all the amenities and everything in there. So if you fly into Kansas City, be ready for a treat. And if you're leaving Kansas City, take it all in and see what your city has for you now. So it's really great. So check out Kansas City and what there is around the city to see and to do. There is a lot going on in Kansas City, and sometimes when you're living in the middle of it, you take it for granted. But if you get a chance, go and check out some of the different areas of Kansas City, the museums on 18th and Vine. Just make sure that you know your city well so that you can represent it to other people. Yes. So that's the BFTAA and More show for today on this Monday, and we're glad that you joined us. Be sure and tune in every Monday from 5 to 5:45 for BFTAA and More with your host, Louis George Walker. Thank you. Have a great week. Stay tuned. We've got some more shows. The Smart Money comes on at 7 o'clock. Smart Money will be on at 7 o'clock. Check it out. It's really a great new show that we have here. All right, we'll talk to you later. And I'm out of here now.